Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Zzzax of Life podcast, a Marvel podcast from Laughing Place. I'm Mike Mack, that's Kyle Burbank.
Hello.
How's it going, Kyle?
I'm good. I'm in my normal location this time, which is
Yeah,
an improvement from last show. But the people listening can totally hear the difference, I'm sure.
right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, you can really hear the room around you. It does feel like it's been a while. It's only been 2 weeks since our last episode, but I feel like so much has happened that it just feels like a long
has
time.
happened. The Zzzax of life have happened.
All of the Zzzax of all of the lives have occurred over the past 2 weeks. But yeah, we obviously have a whole lot to talk about with X-Men 97. We have the final 2 episodes. We broke down the first part of the finale in our last episode. So if you haven't listened to that, you can go back and check that out. But we're going to be breaking down full spoiler discussion about the last 2 episodes of X-Men 97 in this week's episode here. We are also going to be having our games return after they were absent last episode, not last week, because we just had too much to talk about then. So now we get back to our regularly scheduled silliness on this podcast. So we will be getting to that later. But let's kick things off with some Marvel news. And like I said, there was actually quite a bit over the past 2 weeks. Just gathering it all today in preparation here, I was like, how long has it been since our last episode? We'll start off with I don't even know where to begin with this news because it was all over the place a little bit. But it ended up being Agatha all along. So Marvel had a really fun time trolling all of us over the past 2 years, jumping from a whole bunch of different names. What did it even start at? House of Harkness was the first one.
I think so. And then Coven of Chaos.
Yeah, and then Darkhold Diaries, and then it was just Agatha for a little while. Now we know the title is, well, actually, even before we got the official announcement of the title, I'm sure you really loved this one because this seems like something that you would have enjoyed.
Well, I knew instantly that it was fake. I'm like, we're not writing about this like it's serious. But it was The Lying Witch and Her Wardrobe or something like that.
I think it was with The Lying Witch with Great Wardrobe.
Your Great Wardrobe, yeah.
That was the trolling subtitle for Agatha. Now we know the title is officially Agatha All Along, and it will debut on September 18th. I believe they said with 2 episodes, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So
and they showed a trailer at the upfronts, but it was not released online. So I'm sure we'll get that within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we should mention too, the Disney upfronts occurred, what was that, earlier this week, like Tuesday or Wednesday or something like that. And so we got some Marvel news out of that, including the Agatha All Along premiere date. Again, I would expect a trailer for this one pretty soon. I would not expect to see the trailer or footage or whatever they showed at the upfront for the other 2 projects that were talked about.
They were both trailers as well,
which is really interesting. It seems early for a trailer for both of these. And
well, they've had them for a while. Like, they're not sitting there because they're not done. They're sitting there because they want to space things out. Like they said at the last, I think it was the earnings call where Iger said that for Marvel, their intent is to have 2 to 3 series, or maybe it's 2 to 3 movies and 2 series each year. So yeah, definitely slowing down. So I think that's why these are sitting there.
Which that's still interesting because Ironheart being one of the projects that was announced so long ago, and we've heard absolutely nothing about it. And
I mean, I was just glad to see that it was still on.
Yeah, me too.
But I did hear Jim Rash shows up in the trailer that they showed. Yeah.
So the Dean will return to the MCU. To the delight of all community fans out there. So yeah, Ironheart, we'll stick to that one first, and we'll just say that it was announced that it will be coming in 2025. No specific release window within that year. However, we did learn that Daredevil Born Again will be coming in March 2025, which I think is probably right around what I would have expected from that, because they never gave it a 2024 window. So early 2025 seems to make sense. I'm really curious what the trailer looked like. I would love to know how much they showed, because we've heard a lot of rumors about characters showing up in this series. So I'm very interested to see. And again, that one though, with that coming out in March of next year, I don't expect to see a trailer anytime soon.
Right.
That would be a weird release schedule for them. So, but yeah, Daredevil Born Again, March 2025, and then Ironheart sometime in 2025. I would think that they'll space those out, and we'll see Ironheart in like the fall, perhaps with something animated in between, kind of similar to the format they're following now. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's where it's funny that they brought them out to be like, yeah, our show's coming out in like a year and a half, but
yeah.
Because some of the stars from the shows were apparently there as well. So I think for Agatha All Along, you had Catherine Hahn, Patti LuPone, and then I forget the other person's name. But then you had the stars of the other shows come out too.
Yeah, I can't. It's so hard to keep track of. Quick sidetrack. We watched Madam Web last night. Finally, got around to it, and because I was not going to prioritize seeing that in a theater. But there were several actors who popped up and just like, oh, I didn't know this person was in this movie. And I was like, yeah, I didn't either. Although I probably wrote about it like 3 years ago. So it's so hard to keep track of who has been cast in what Marvel movies. But
so misleading.
Speaking of casting, Fantastic Four got some interesting casting news. We'll start with the big one. Ralph Ineson, one of the two, has been cast. Interestingly, we got a bunch of casting news, and this is the only one who we know. He's been cast as Galactus, which is interesting to me that they are including Galactus to begin with in the first Fantastic Four movie. But we'll see. We don't know necessarily that that's the big bad. It could just be sort of a tease or something. We'll see how that goes. But are you familiar with this actor at all?
I don't, not by name.
Okay. Well, he has actually appeared in the MCU before. He was a Ravager pilot in Guardians of the Galaxy. So pretty cool to see, another actor added to the list with 2 different roles in the MCU. I haven't seen a whole lot of his work, but I have heard him speak. And really, that's what is important for playing Galactus, giant space entity that eats planets. I don't think you're going to actually cast that practically. So the voice is the important part, and he has a great voice for Galactus. So I really do like that casting. So yeah, Ralph Ineson playing Galactus, and then a couple other interesting pieces of casting news for Fantastic Four. John Malkovich. Which, Kyle, are you familiar with John Malkovich's work? And what are you familiar with him from?
Being John Malkovich.
Got it. Yeah, that was the joke I wanted to set you up for. Knocked it out of the park.
Glad I could help. And Burn After Reading and
sure.
Yeah, everything else. Malkovich.
One of my favorite SNL sketches of all time. Also, Netflix's recent Space Force series, which he was quite funny in. But we don't know who he will be playing in Fantastic Four just yet. So, I'm curious. I don't know what role they would find for John Malkovich in that, but
John Malkovich.
Yeah, that would be great if he's just himself.
Reprising his role as John Malkovich.
Reprising his role as himself. And then Natasha Lyonne is the other piece of casting news for Fantastic Four. She is the star of Orange is the New Black, which I never
and those Old Navy commercials. And she's in American Pie, right?
Oh, that's a good question. I've never been a big fan of the American Pie movies.
Or Old Navy commercials. Enough for those, but that's okay.
So there you go. Ralph Ineson, John Malkovich, and Natasha Lyonne all added to the cast of Fantastic Four. It seems like they are really jumping on that cast. They're getting a lot of big or somewhat decent names in there, actually. What were you going to
add? No, I forgot. Never mind. Well, I think I'm confusing people again.
Okay. We'll stay in the MCU adjacent here. We got some interesting news regarding What If. Not a season 3, but we do know season 3 is coming. But What If, an immersive story coming to Apple Vision Pro. Kyle, how do you feel about VR experiences? Is that something you
So I've done The Void, and that was really
Okay.
fun.
Okay.
I tend to like the idea of AR more, which is actually what this
Yeah.
seems like it's going to be. And
Yes.
incidentally, when they first teased the Disney connection to Apple Vision Pro in the keynote, they kind of had like a what if theme to it. So it makes perfect sense now uh, that they are doing something like I'd say full fledged, but we don't know to what what this
Yeah.
is really going to look like.
Well, let me read a quick description of it that we got when this was announced. Fans can step into a leading role of an all-new immersive story that transforms the space around them as they traverse across realities. So transforming the space around them, yeah, AR as opposed to VR. Throughout their journey, they will come face to face with multiversal variants of their favorite characters, learn the mystic arts, and be tasked with harnessing the power of the Infinity Stones. So sounds like it's just sort of a all over the place kind of, and they did kind of describe it as like a choose your own adventure type of thing too, which is pretty cool. I like the idea of that. And some of the images they released, which you can see on laughingplace.com right now, look pretty cool as well. So I am not a big VR person. I don't mind AR. I don't have a whole lot of experience with like the headset wearing, so I'm not sure how I would actually feel about that, but I'd be interested to try this out. It does sound pretty interesting.
It's definitely not something you're going to buy the
Right.
device for, but if you have it,
Yeah.
and I know at least a couple people on the LP team do have the device, so hopefully we'll get a review and see what they think of it. But did you ever get a chance to do the Void?
I never got to do the Void. No.
Okay, I did two of them. I did Wreck-It Ralph, and I
Okay.
did the Marvel, the Avengers one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I never got a chance to experience it. I did hear good things about it. But yeah, I never got around to Jess is really like averse to VR, like can't do anything with a headset, immediate motion sickness. So it's never been like something we've aimed to do. So I never got a chance to get around to the Void. But let's jump back into the world of movies, although outside of the MCU, actually not movies, television. Kyle, can you do your best impression of the guy who has been cast as Spider-Man Noir?
Who? What? Where?
That was, I actually just fully expected a no, so that was fantastic. Thank you for that. Yes, Amazon Prime has casted a sexy cat to play to play Spider-Man
Yeah, I should have
Noir.
gone with that. Oh, oh.
Again, fantastic. We're going to have more Nick Cage impressions. For those of you who are not in the know, that was Nick Cage. If you're listening, that was actually Nick Cage on the podcast too. It was really cool that we got him in here just to make some guttural noises. Yeah, he is reprising his role as Spider-Man Noir, but now in a series for Amazon Prime. So
a live action series.
A live action series too. Yes, that is worth mentioning because he only played the character animated previously. So yes, that sounds fun. I'm interested in that. However, another Amazon Prime series set in the Spider-Verse is not moving forward, and that is the Silk Spider Society series that I think we talked about a while back.
Probably.
Yeah, and it I do like the character. I like Silk. I've read a few of the comics about the character, but at a certain point, you're kind of oversaturating the market on the Spider-Verse. Like we can. This is coming from somebody who just watched Madam Web last night too, so take it with a grain of salt.
I think you've identified why this project is not moving forward.
Right. So we still have Kraven, and we still have a third Venom, and we still have obviously now this Spider-Man Noir. So there's a lot of Spider content coming. So it kind of makes sense that Silk did not make the cut, but I would like to see the character pop up again in the future in some project, whether it's her own movie or series or something else. All right, I think that's all the news. Is there anything I missed, Kyle? You've been more plugged in than I have.
Some different comic stuff. We wouldn't really talk about comics, so no, that's all I got.
Yeah, there is also a Moon Knight and Venom novel coming out too. That sounds pretty awesome. But yeah, you can check that all out on laughingplace.com. Let's get into X-Men 97 here. And yes, the banner is up. So as long as we are discussing spoilers, for those of you watching live, as long as that banner's up, hopefully you've watched the last two episodes already. And if you haven't, I mean, what are you doing? It was so good. Kyle, how did you feel about these last 2 episodes?
They were lots of cool stuff in them. Again, I don't know if I just don't pay enough attention to these things or I just don't know enough. But I'm like, yeah, I feel like I'm slightly removed from it. But I will say for the finale especially, lots of fun cameos that weren't like there's like, yep, this is happening. We're here. So that was kind of fun. And there's a good bird's needle drop in the finale. So there you go.
There's a good what?
The birds. It plays turn, turn, turn at the beginning of the episode.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. I'd have to revisit that then, because that did not make my.
You mean you don't have encyclopedic knowledge of 1960s rock and roll?
I certainly do not. All right, so let's get into tolerance.
I think I know this by now after working with you for 30.
Listen, you make community references, I get them. You make music jokes, they go over my head. That's been the formula.
Unless it's early 2000s rap.
Occasionally I get those. But yeah, that's the formula we've been following for 87 episodes now. So, all right, let's get into Tolerance's Extinction Part 2, the second of 3 parts of the finale.
Which, by the way, doesn't feel like it needs to be a 3-part. Like, I think a 2-part finale plus a bonus. Like, I don't think we messed this up by doing the first episode and the last episode in the last podcast.
No, you're right. You're right. Especially Bastion even says Tolerance's Extinction in the final episode. Like it felt like it could have been different episode titles, but whatever. In the it really doesn't make a difference as to what the actual product is. So, but if you remember back to the previous episode, we were left off with the X-Men sort of coming back together as Magneto blacked out the world to shut down Bastion's Prime Sentinels. And so that's where we're at. And this episode kicks off with the X-Men coming back together. Storm is back with the team now. She saves Roberto and Jubilee, who are running from some Friends of Humanity and other just angry people. So we get the teams together, and you kind of have the stage set for the finale right at the beginning of this episode. And we get even sort of the 2 bases of operation, because you see Magneto raise Asteroid M from the ocean, and that becomes his base. And then the X Mansion, you remember, was completely destroyed. So the X-Men head back to Muir Island. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's Scottish. But so they head back there. And Muir Island has a lot of lore in X-Men comics and the animated series and things like that. It was the home of the Mutant Research Foundation, I believe is the name. I think it's taken multiple names over the years, but founded by Moira McTaggart, who was a big player in X-Men comics. And also, if you saw X-Men First Class, you'll remember her from that movie. So yeah, they set the stage there. The X-Men go back and they get the classic costumes on, which was really cool to see, especially as someone with the X-Men arcade cabinet right in my peripherals. Just seeing those costumes again was really cool. So that was a lot of fun. They also set up, these 2 different missions. It's you got to go get Magneto to undo everything that he did, because otherwise he completely disrupted the magnetic poles or whatever of science of Earth. He's going to destroy the planet. Yeah, exactly. And then the other team has to go and stop Bastion, obviously. Did anything stand out to you right off the bat when they were dividing up these teams and where they were going? Because one of the biggest complaints of X-Men fans is that, why is Wolverine always fighting Magneto? I mean, a guy with a metal skeleton attacking a guy who controls metal with his mind. It's one of the ongoing X-Men gags, and yet here it was again.
Yeah, kind of like, oh well, it's a good thing that they sent the 2 people who love each other to go get the soul stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, so that was just a funny little detail in there that probably irked quite a few fans, but it did set up a very important moment that we'll get to later on. Magneto also goes to the X-Men, and in sort of that moment of like, we have to go and find the big villain. Nope, there he is. He just knocks on our front door. He shows up to give the X-Men a proposal of a different dream and to join him. And so Rogue and Roberto take him up on that, obviously causing this rift between Jubilee and Roberto, which has been like I don't know, pick a letter somewhere down in the alphabet, somewhere after like K. That's been that story through line of this whole season. So yeah, Jubilee and Roberto on opposite sides there.
It's a season arc with a K.
There you go. Perfect. This episode had two of my favorite quotes. Coincidentally, like right after we drafted the best Marvel quotes. But one of them was, I'm curious actually, do you have any idea of what they might be?
No. I again really should pay more attention. I don't watch them 3 times like you do.
Well, I mean, you also apparently don't follow me on Twitter, but that's okay.
Okay, I follow you on Twitter. I just don't go on Twitter. There's a difference.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I actually don't. I think I tweeted for the first time in like, I don't know, a month. But so the first one was actually released in a video, like a little teaser a few weeks back. And that was Cable getting the costume, the blue and yellow, and he objects to it, and Cyclops says, "What did you expect? Black leather?" Calling back to the original X-Men movie in 2000, where Wolverine questions the black leather, and Cyclops says, "What did you expect? Yellow spandex." Love that. Great little gag thrown in there, kind of poking fun at the much maligned X-Men movies, I suppose. And then the other one, polar opposite of that, not a gag at all. I thought just some really cool dialogue between two awesome characters, and that was Jean and Storm. And before they kind of go into action against Bastion and his Sentinels, it was she says, "Make them mind your weather, sister," and she responds, "Make and them weather your mind." Brilliant. Thought that was really well played. So that was a really couple of really cool moments in this episode, I thought. There was another fun Easter egg. Did you catch the name of the diner on? I forget where. Bastion was somewhere in the Galapagos, by the way. I could not remember where specifically.
I feel like I clocked it at the moment, but I can't think of what it is now.
It was DeMeo's diner. Bo DeMeo, the head writer of the series, gets a nice little nod there. So that was fun. But we have these big action sequences. One team of X-Men, including Wolverine, attacking Magneto, and another team attacking Bastion and Sentinels and Sinister, who happens to be there as well. Really cool fight, I thought, between Jean and Sinister. I thought that was a lot of fun. And then we get to the big climactic moment of this episode, which was, I don't even know where to begin with this description, but Charles decides he needs to take over Magneto's mind. They tried reasoning with him. It's not going to work. So they need to get his helmet off so he can hijack his powers to undo what he did to Earth. So Wolverine gets the helmet off. Charles psychically attacks him, and then Scott, tells him the other team needs more time, and he blasts the professor, which I thought was a cool, poignant moment for what's been going on in this series. And then Wolverine sneaks up and stabs Magneto, which was I was like, are they killing Magneto twice in one season here? That was interesting. And then we get the really big moment, which is Magneto just sort of casually ripping Wolverine's skeleton out of his body, which I thought they handled pretty well. That the description is more graphic than what they actually showed, and yet the art very much mirrored the comic in which this exact moment happened. So I thought they did a pretty good job of that. I don't know. Did that stand out to you in any other way? Like, do you think they could have done it differently?
No, I thought it was good. Yeah, kind of like some like few frames at a time. Like not just, it wasn't fluid.
They took that style on at multiple points in this episode too, as they were walking out, like dressed in the old costumes. Which I thought was interesting because it didn't really carry anywhere else. It was just that episode. So I don't know if that was did a different director take over and implement that style or what, but it might've just been to set up that moment because they didn't want to show anything too graphic, I guess.
Yeah.
So, Kyle, I know you've read every X-Men comic in the history of time.
All the spinoffs, every anything with the letter X in it, even things that have nothing to do with X-Men but happen to have an X in there. Read it.
That is honestly just sounds like an impossible task. There's just way too many. So this moment, like I said, does occur in the comics, and it actually leads to the creation of a major villain, which you can read much more about than what we'll go into detail here on Laughing Place. A character called Onslaught. Onslaught is a psychic entity, doesn't have a physical body, but he is the darkest, most negative thoughts of both Magneto and Professor Xavier combined. And he is created in this moment.
He's Twitter.
Onslaught should be X. He should be, and there you go. It's even more fitting. He should be the mascot of X. So yeah, he's created in this moment where Charles psychically attacks Magneto, and he does so because he's enraged because Magneto killed Wolverine in the way that he did. Now, granted, you don't kill Wolverine; he always comes back. But so yeah, that is what happened. That's what happened in the comics. I guess we'll discuss it a little bit more as we get into the next episode. But it seemed to be a big time setup for Onslaught in the future of this series. So I thought that was a really cool, exciting way to end that episode, because obviously you have the finale still. Like, you've got the whole conflict with Bastion, and yet here you are kind of laying the seed for the next big bad. As it turns out, it might be the next big bad, but we'll talk about that as we get into the final episode here. Any last thoughts on part 2 before we go into part 3?
Nope. Let's keep rolling.
All right. So we pick up with Xavier psychically in the mind of Magneto, and he does launch that psychic attack on him that again would have created Onslaught. We don't necessarily see that here, but so he takes over Magneto's powers and undoes all the damage. So, saves Earth while also reviving all machines, which includes the Prime Sentinels, creating the big blow-off battle here for the finale. And as you mentioned, we get a lot of cameos in this episode. A lot of them come as you are just seeing, Earth being restored. Let me just run through a list for you here, and I had to write them all down because it was that many. Silver Samurai, Captain America and Iron Man, Daredevil, Doctor Strange, Black Panther, but it's T'Chaka, not T'Challa, Cloak and Dagger, Omega Red, Crimson Dynamo, and Dark Star, Psylocke, and Alpha Flight. So, whole lot of characters.
I knew some of those words. Becca caught Cloak and Dagger, and she was very excited about seeing them.
Yeah, it was really cool to have them, because you get Daredevil in a fight. There's like all sorts of chaos. There's looting and everything. So Daredevil cleaning up the streets. He gets blasted by the Prime Sentinels. Then Cloak and Dagger jump in to save him. So, yeah, it was really cool seeing a lot of these characters. Psylocke and Alpha Flight was an interesting one to see them sort of combined. Crimson Dynamo, by the way, that is Anton Vanko, the father of Whiplash from Iron Man 2. So There's a fun MCU connection there. So yeah, it was really cool to see a lot of those characters. And by the way, we do have to address your finale predictions from the last episode, which we'll get into at the end here.
If only I remembered a single one of them.
We also get an appearance that I think has been teased, not in a single episode of this series, but in the intro of almost every episode, which was we get the appearance of the Phoenix very briefly in this episode here, as Jean, who was seemingly killed by Cable in the previous episode, arises as the Phoenix with very convenient.
As Phoenixes do.
As Phoenixes do. Phoenixes?
Phoenicians?
Phoenicians. So yeah, she comes up as the Phoenix and kind of gets through the Phoenix is very conveniently there for just when they exactly need her, and then she disappears again. And so
it's a special, like you were talking about your X-Men cabinet. If you just mash the buttons, you get the little Phoenix for a second. That's what it's
right. You're right. That's exactly what it was. It's like you can only use that once in a fight, but so she kind of derails Bastion's plan, frees the X-Men, makes Sinister real ugly. She pulls all the genetic code.
Then Morph makes fun of him on top of it.
Yes, which is fantastic.
Insult to injury.
I love that that Morph gets that moment. But yeah, she pulls all the genetic code that he's stolen from mutants over the years to make him stay young and I guess looking like what he wants to look like. He's still pretty horrendous, but he looks worse after that. So yeah, we get that cool moment with Morph, like you mentioned. And then Bastion comes back after the Phoenix is gone. He kind of lays out the X-Men real quick and then has a moment with Cable, who he determined as like the biggest threat. Like Cable is never going to rest. Throughout the future, he's going to be constantly trying to change that future that Bastion's trying to lay out. So he goes ahead and rips off Cable's arm and then uses it to take what I guess we could call his final form. Now, I mentioned Onslaught being a psychic entity, doesn't have a physical body. Bastion's final form, quote unquote, looks pretty similar. It has some similarities to what Onslaught could look like. So I thought that was an interesting little nod there, possibly. Could end up seeing Bastion in a different way in the future of this series. So Bastion, I'm getting ahead of myself now. Onslaught is not joining the fight just yet, but Bastion sort of lays out the X-Men there, and then he's going up to Asteroid M, and his plan is to wipe out the planet by dropping an asteroid on it, just going full Ultron on us. And so we get the big fight up on Asteroid M. Rogue attacks Bastion first, and that fight gets taken to the blue side of the moon, which sounds ridiculous, has a lot of X-Men lore and Marvel Comics lore. It is the site of the Phoenix fight against the Shi'ar Empire, in which we saw in the original animated series. It's also frequently the home of Uatu, the Watcher, which I'd have to go back now that I think about it and look more carefully. Maybe he showed up there because he's already shown up in this series. And then also it's the home of the Inhumans. So pretty cool that they kind of threw all of that lore in there very, briefly. The next X-Men to join the fight is Roberto, who has he finally adopts the name Sunspot. And I like the little line he threw in there. Definitely has more flair. Clever. Yeah. See what you did there. On Earth, though, you see the president, Captain America, and T'Chaka trying to urge the president not to enact the Magneto protocols, which seemingly was just to launch a few weak missiles at an asteroid and then have it plummet down on Earth. Doesn't seem like a good plan. But so
yeah, everybody knows you need to send Bruce Willis and Michael Clark Duncan up there to take care of it.
See, I already had an Armageddon joke on the docket there, but but we do. He does. The president does decide to enact the Magneto protocols, and he takes a quick look at a file. Did you pause at all to look at that file more closely?
I didn't.
Listen, that's my job. That's what I'm here for. So there's a few interesting notes on the file that he looks at. One, I thought it was cool. This might have just been me being a super nerd and looking into things too much, but there's a little chart with like power ratings, and that is pretty much like exactly what you'll see, or at least what you used to. It looks like they changed the style a little bit on Marvel.com, but you'll see those ratings for Magneto. So pretty cool that they threw that in there. You get a list of his children, which is, I guess it's been retconned so many times I don't know if it's true anymore, but Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, the children of Magneto. Then there is another name redacted. You get the P, and then it's redacted after that. That would be a reference to Polaris, another magnetic-centric mutant that has been a member of the X-Men. So, and we actually get a brief look at Polaris later on in this episode. So, cool to include that. And then my favorite thing on this file here was the list of aliases that Magneto has taken on over the years. First was Eric Lencher, his real name, makes sense. The next one was David Hemblin, which is the original voice actor who voiced Magneto in X-Men, the animated series. And then a couple more redacted names. We get Ian M. and Michael F. So Ian McKellen and Michael Fassbender. Cool little nods to the two actors who have played live action Magneto. So I like that they threw those Easter eggs in there. still in the mind of Magneto. There's this whole like sinking bar.
You keep saying Mind of Magneto, and if that's not a series, I don't know why it's not, because that sounds fantastic.
Mind of Magneto does sound pretty good. There's Trial of Magneto. There's that might be it. There might be some other ones, but yeah. So we're inside his mind again, and it's taking on this. These waters are rushing in, and it's like all the negativity in Magneto's mind. And you actually see a boat. Like I said, you see Polaris on this boat along with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch and Rogue, and they're all sort of calling for Magneto to come join them. And then jumping out of that, you get the big fight carrying on in Asteroid M with Cyclops and Nightcrawler. I do really like that they gave Jubilee the sort of hero moment where it's like Nightcrawler and
Cyclops. Heard that before.
From Jubilee?
When she says that. She's
like, she says that. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I thought you were saying you've heard of a Jubilee hero moment before. I'm like, I don't think there's been many. But so that's why I really like that they gave her that moment in this. And Bastion's line was funny to set that up too. The what are you going to do? Like threaten me with the 4th of July or something like that. So yeah, that was really cool. There was some more fun action with Cyclops, which I thought they did a really good job with him in this series. Did
it hurt you to say that a little bit?
A little bit. He was cool. He was cool in this series. I thought they made Cyclops likable again. So that was fun. The rest of the X-Men join them in a Trojan horse sentinel with Beast making that joke. And then they have the moment where they have Bastion sort of dead to rights. They've got him right where they want him. And then Cyclops orders the team to stand down and wants to welcome him into the X-Men. And that's when Bastion points out that, humans are never going to trust them. And he literally points out the rockets, they're the missiles that are heading for Asteroid M. So that starts all sorts of chaos. Bastion is seemingly just destroyed, like lost in rubble. So that's sort of the end of Bastion. Like we don't really see him die, but then again, he's also sort of an android or something. So I don't know. That is what leads me to believe that body could eventually serve the purpose of Onslaught in the future. And then this is where I was going to say Cyclops decides to try and go full Armageddon by staying behind and blow up the asteroid while the rest of the X-Men escape. But they don't let him. This is one of the things I thought was weird about this episode. Beast is sort of like, I've come up with another idea so that you don't have to sacrifice yourself. It involves us all sacrificing ourselves. So yeah, they Storm, Jean, Rogue are all trying to contain the asteroid while Cyclops is blowing it up. And so I don't really fully understand what the plan was. Before they go into that though, there was a really brief, interesting moment. So we have this psychic goodbye between Cable and then Cyclops and Jean. And Cable says something along the lines of like, the legends of my folks, like they didn't live up to the real thing. And their connection sort of blinks for a second. And Jean looks a little surprised. Did you catch that watching the first time?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Because I thought like it kind of breezed past it. And then I watched it a second time. I was like, that was weird. That's a weird moment. It doesn't seem like it would be an accidental thing. So I'm curious to know if that'll come back in some way in the future. And then
the past.
It's such a time traveler thing to say. I almost quoted Family Guy there, but decided to hold back a little bit. There's a lot of other Easter eggs too, as we're getting this big dramatic moment of the asteroid coming down on Earth. And there's a radio station, which is obviously not a real radio station, 1996-06. Not sure what that was referencing, to be honest. There were some thoughts like, Onslaught debuted in 1996, so maybe it's a point at that. But then I'm not sure what the 06 is. My best guess was there's Adventures of X-Men number 6 came out in 1996, and that had Apocalypse as the big bad, which we will talk more about as we get to the end of this episode. That's my best guess. I'm not sure what they were like really going for in 1996-06, but there you go. That's all I've got. We also get three more cameos in one moment as we see Peter Parker, Mary Jane Watson, and Flash Thompson watching the news, seeing the report of this asteroid coming down. And then I don't know if this was part of the plan, but Magneto wakes up from his Xavier-induced coma and sort of just stops the asteroid altogether, which kind of gives you an idea of how powerful Magneto is. With all the X-Men couldn't do it, but then he very casually just stops the asteroid. So he stops it, and then it kind of, I had the hardest time describing this moment in my written recap of the episode. It didn't explode. It fireworked. I don't know what to call it. It fizzled.
Yeah. I don't know.
The asteroid just sort of disappears, and all of the X-Men are lost. So and you see Forge watching on as that's happening, as he's back down on Earth. Jubilee and Sunspot are back down on Earth as well. So they've survived, but the rest of the X-Men have all disappeared. And that's where we leave them in this moment. We then go a 6-month time jump, and you see Forge working to sort of recreate the X-Men I don't know, is he living in the rubble of the X-Mansion? Seems like you could have done a little bit better than that, Forge. But you see him looking at a board of a whole bunch of different mutant characters. Some of them real quick: Colossus, Iceman, Havoc, Magic, Exodus, Shadowcat, which is Kitty Pryde, and Emma Frost. So some of the names that he's trying to put together for the new X-Men, some characters we might see in the future of this series with whenever we see season 2. He's also listening to the radio, and you hear a news report about Graydon Creed, who is rising in the polls to, for the next presidential election. Graydon Creed is a character from both the animated series and the comics. He is a leader of the Friends of Humanity, so he's very anti-mutant. He also in the comics goes by the villain name of Bad Seed. Terrible name, but he is the son of Sabretooth and Mystique. So, however, never showed any mutant abilities. So, interesting character dynamic there. I haven't read a whole lot about Graydon Creed, but I do remember him from the animated series where he was just human. So we'll see. We'll see if he has a role to play in the future as well. Kyle, I want you to tell me if I'm reading too much into this one. Forge looks at the clock, and it is 1:11. Could go a lot of different ways, just like the 1996-06. But to me, this was season 1, episode 10, and that 1:11 might have been a little nod to, hey, there's more episodes coming.
Maybe, but I think that'd be 2:01.
Yeah, I did think that too. It could have been 2:01. But yeah, I don't know. It might have just been pure coincidence, but they did linger on the clock. So I'm like, I don't know. It feels like they were trying to do something there.
Like time is a thing.
It could have been that, honestly. Right after that is when Bishop returns, another time traveling mutant, and he, tells Forge the X-Men haven't been lost in a place; they've been lost in time, and that's set up.
It isn't where, but when.
Yeah. Again, big time traveler joke there. So then we get a jump to the past and a jump to the future, where the X-Men have, for some reason, been split up into 2 different teams. Rogue and Nightcrawler and Charles and Beast and Magneto are in Egypt in 3000 BC, and they see some men attacking seemingly innocent people, including one guy in particular who is surrounded. Magneto saves him. And then we get the reveal that mystery man is En-Saban Nur. Now, I know for a fact you've seen X-Men Apocalypse. Did you recognize
I have not seen it.
You have not? Wait. Oh, okay. So you weren't on that one. It was Becca and the rest of the X, whatever you want to call us, on the LP Movie Club back in the day.
The Toads and the Lightning.
Not seen X-Men Apocalypse?
Why would I? I've never heard one good thing about it. Why would I bother? I've actually pretty sure I've only ever seen X2, and that's because I went to a screening because I worked at the movie theater.
Well, no, but you saw Origins Wolverine.
I did also because I worked at the movie. I worked the world premiere. I saw it before the world premiere. I had to build it and get yelled at by Fox people, and
so much trouble for such a terrible movie. Anyway, that was all just to say that En-Saban Nur was Apocalypse that was, focused on in X-Men Apocalypse, that terrible movie. So there you go. There's the setup. The X-Men in the past saved Apocalypse, creating, in a way, what would become creating the Apocalypse, perhaps. Cyclops and Jean end up going to the future instead of going back to ancient Egypt. They go to 3960 AD. And it doesn't give a location. It literally just says the future, which I was like, that's kind of redundant. You don't need to give us both of those.
People might be watching in 3200 and will be like, wait, what? Why does this say?
So they meet a character who identifies herself as Mother Ascani. And then they see a young Nathan, a boy introduced just as Nathan, and Cyclops immediately recognizes, there can't possibly be another Nathan in the future, so it's got to be him. So that is where their story ends. Now, Mother Ascani is more interesting than just this old lady who introduces Nathan, because Mother Ascani is a name adopted by Rachel Summers, who is the daughter of Scott and Jean. Now, she is a very powerful psychic and has a whole long history in the comics. In this particular version of her, she exists in a world that has been destroyed by Apocalypse, and she is trying to protect the prophecy of Cable destroying Apocalypse and saving the past and all of that. So a whole bunch of time travel stuff is going on here, and will be going on, I would assume, in season 2, as the stage is now set with the X-Men on 2 different sides of a war in very different time periods. So cool ending there to set up the future of this series. And then it wasn't done, because then we got a mid-credits scene, and we went back to present day Genosha, to be specific. And we see, the feet of a mystery man, and we hear the very recognizable voice of Apocalypse, saying the words "so much death" as he lifts a Queen of Hearts out of the rubble. Really, really cool moment. Definitely think we haven't seen the end of Gambit. So if you're familiar with Apocalypse, or even if you're familiar with the idea of the Apocalypse, there are the 4 horsemen of the Apocalypse, and one of them being Death. Archangel, or Angel, who one of the members of the X-Men, has filled that role for Apocalypse in the past, and it seems like Gambit might be the next one to do so. So it'd be really interesting to see this Horseman of Apocalypse version of Gambit in the future as well. So that was the exciting finish of season 1.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mac, you just broke some news to me, because when we got to the credits, I fast forwarded to see if there was anything and went right over it, apparently.
Oh, no.
So I didn't know that
very brief
until right now.
Wow. Okay. Didn't realize that. Yeah. So there you go. Spoilers for you too. That's the mid.
No, I'll go watch that after.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was very well done. It was very exciting. I mean, now it's not going to be as exciting now that you know what happens, but yeah, it was a really exciting moment for X-Men fans. And even if you weren't really an X-Men fan and don't necessarily have any idea what's going on with Apocalypse, just seeing that Queen of Hearts, a reference to Gambit, and what I thought was the best episode of this series.
You didn't say "so much death, mon ami."
That might have been a little bit on the nose.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so I really loved the finale, all 3 parts. I thought the ending, the closing moments were so incredibly well done. This show closed out, by the way, at least as of yesterday, with a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. So, it's safe to say it's some of the best Marvel content we've gotten in quite a while. I don't know. How did you feel about the end of it? Did you love it as much now as you did, throughout the adventure here?
Yeah, I'd say I feel like I didn't. I guess I was, as I've said again and again, I'm just surprised by like how much more knowledge this takes. Like you need to explain stuff way more to me during this than you do with any other series we've done, which is hilarious because this is a kid's show.
Right.
I think it's more just my lack of knowledge about the X-Men.
Yeah.
And, there's so much X-Men lore. So I think, having that like streamlined MCU thing is one thing, but getting into the world of X-Men is another, as I'm learning. So it's been interesting to have you explain it to me, because a lot of the stuff kind of goes over my head, even though I'm 40 years old.
No, yeah, I was surprised by the same thing, to be honest, because, peek behind the curtain, I do the episode recaps for any Marvel content that we get. And I expected this to be like a very easy, like, okay, here it is, half-hour episode, and then I knock it out in another, half hour or whatever. I ended up writing a lot more about these episodes than I thought, because there was so much stuff to explain with every episode. So yeah, it was definitely very in-depth, and they didn't shy away from the lore of the original animated series. They pulled a lot from that. They also didn't shy away from more adult stuff. Like you said, it was a kid's series, but they ripped Wolverine's spine out of his body. So they do a lot of that stuff that is definitely more adult in theme, and I enjoyed it. I definitely really liked it. I don't think they did anything that crossed the line, really. I guess that, some other people might feel differently. But I feel like it's still, kids can enjoy this show still. So, I thought it was just really, really well done. Absolutely loved it, and can't wait for season 2. All right. Let me make sure our guest is ready. And
I wish we could have seen his face for the past 10 minutes so I could just see how uninterested he truly was.
Well, hey, at least this one was animated.
But also, the more you spoke, as we were talking about the mind of Magneto, I realized that our draft isn't as crazy as we might have thought.
Well, let's set up, because actually, and this is a surprise to our guest too, but we're bringing back a game that we haven't done in a little while. So let's get set up for that. How much is that cameo? All right, so like I said, we have our games returning. We're going to get to our draft, but first we have how much is that cameo, and our guest for the first time, and I'm just realizing quite a while, is none other than Tony Betty.
Hey, hi, everybody. For the record, it was 22 minutes, not 10.
Yeah, we had a lot to talk about. Sorry.
I noticed, but you know what? It helped. I have a very limited Marvel knowledge, which will be very evident here in this draft. But you reminded me of characters that I forgot that I actually do kind of know their context. So I was like, oh, well, okay. All right.
So Tony did all of his draft prep in the last 22 minutes.
It helped it. I wouldn't say all of it, but it definitely added options.
Gotcha. All right. So, Tony, you have done how much is that cameo before, right?
I have. Yeah, I was actually looking, but like when you told me it was live today, because normally we do it pre-recorded in the segments, or had done it that way. I was like, oh, I wonder if they even still do that anymore. So I'm glad that you are bringing it back.
It has been a little while, mostly because X-Men has given us so much to talk about, but we do have.
I've noticed.
Yeah, we do have some time to get to it today. So, Kyle, who is our next cameo?
Well, let me play you this person's intro. Well, sorry, gotta rewind it.
Hi, Catherine Disher here. You might know me from playing Mayor Martha Tinsdale on Good Witch, among many other TV shows, or as the voice of Jean Grey from X-Men the Animated Series, or Mom from Roly Poly, or the Pie Maker from Daniel Spellbound, among many other animated series. So I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of a technophobe. That's because I'm kind of a techno idiot. But I think that I have finally figured out Cameo. So if you would like to send birthday messages, special greetings, words of congratulations, words of encouragement, which goodness knows we could all use more of these days, my son has suggested that I offer to nag people via Cameo, because apparently I'm so good at it that I should do it professionally. Anyway, if you would like to send any of these things to a friend, a family member, a colleague, a loved one, or maybe just something for yourself, and we could just pretend, if you like, that it was for someone else. I'm a vault. Please reach out and get in touch. I would love to hear from you. Bye-bye.
So Gene, we're already running a little long here, so if you can go ahead.
The longest intro we've had on this. That's Catherine Disher. She's the original Jean Grey in the animated series. In this one, she played the other lady, Professor something or other. And anyway, how much is that cameo?
Madeline Pryor, I believe, is who she voiced.
Was it? I thought it was the...
Oh, that's right. You're right. No. Yes. Oh, yeah. Yep. Blanking again.
Professor something.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So, Tony, I can't imagine you have a strong thought on what the price would be.
Well, I do, because A, she's a voice actress, and that could go either way. She's humble, or she's really expecting a lot because she has a resume. Secondly, I need to know, because last time I played this with you, and I think the time before that, you had me guess Scientology people. So I need to know if that could, because that will come into if they need to buy the next copy of Dianetics or whatever self-help they need. So
I don't remember the specific example.
I don't remember. All I know is the low hand scale. You just
we did use the low hand scale for a while. That's right. I don't. Do you want to set the bar, Tony? You want me to go first?
I'm gonna say 100.
Okay, 100.
100. Okay, I'm gonna go low. I should be smart and say like 99 right now, but I'm gonna not do that. And I'm just gonna go. We should come up with a way to lock our answers in before hearing the other person's answer. But I'm just gonna go with $35.
35. Okay, hold on. Now I gotta do math.
I'm second guessing because now I'm going back to that voice actor clause I said, and I feel like I might have jumped it, but I'm still gonna stick with it.
Okay,
no, you're absolutely right.
Today's winner, and I will not hear any jokes about this answer, is Tony.
Yay!
Because that cameo is $69.
Okay, that's.
So nice. He won by $3 or $4 if my math is correct.
Yeah, that was a very close one. Yep, should have gone with $99. That would have been smart.
My fallback guess was 50. So
okay, you still would have won.
Yeah.
Real quick before we move on to our draft, because Tony, I know you are so ready and just itching to get to that. I did forget one thing, Kyle.
Okay.
We still have to address. So Tony, you just bear with us for a little bit more.
Do I need to put up the banner again?
Yeah, I guess you do. So Kyle's predictions for the finale of X-Men, because we played a different game last episode. Kyle, a total runtime, I set the line at 76.5 minutes. You bet the over, and it came in at 75 minutes. So you would just miss that one. I set a good line on that one. I'm proud of myself for that. New X-Men members appearing in the last two episodes. You took the over on 1.5. It was definitely over. We got Psylocke, we got Polaris, a few others as well. So the over hit. So good job. You're 1 for 2.
So is it actually officially pronounced Polaris, not like Polaris?
I guess it could go either way.
If my knowledge of the Adventures of Pete and Pete means anything here, it's Polaris.
Is your dog bite?
Next one, Nightcrawler teleports. We set the line at 6.5, and you took the under. I don't know what the answer was, but it was way more than 6.5. So the over hit on that one. So you're 1 for 3. Somebody saying to me, my X-Men, you took the over on half. So if one person said it, nobody did, unfortunately. So under hits on that one again. And then character deaths. We had the line at 1.5. You took the under. Only one that we think we know of would be Bastion. So I'll give you the under hit on that one. So 2 out of 5, not terrible, but maybe don't download any sports betting apps anytime soon.
So am I to understand a single episode of this revived television series for television is 76 minutes?
No, it was 2 episodes that we were predicting there. So 2 episodes combined into 75 minutes.
So what's that? That's 40-ish minutes.
That includes all of the foreign credits, like the actual runtime stated on Disney+.
Well, it was whatever the runtime was.
Okay. So, okay. Still cool that they that pleases me as somebody who watches a lot of 22-minute animated content.
Right. Yeah, and actually, on average, I think the most episodes were listed as 33 minutes, so it was cool to see that they stretched them out a little bit more. Okay, without further ado, let's go ahead and get to our draft.
What if I told you we were putting a team together? Assemble.
Production value, I like it.
like the little Zzzax that pops up at the bottom there at the end. So those of you who have listened for a while or watched, well, actually, I guess not watched because Tony has never been on the show when we were live. So, but if you've listened for a while, you know that when Tony is on, we tend to do a ridiculous draft somewhere in the world of animation. And one of the next big animated movies coming out is Inside Out 2, which I'm really excited for. Nice. Look at that. Ready to go with the props. Yep. Tony's a pro.
It's at my desk.
Inside Out is one of my all-time favorite movies. I don't even need to qualify that. Just absolutely love that movie. So we are drafting the 5 emotions. I know it's way more in Inside Out 2, but we're going to stick to 1.
9.
So yeah, well, we don't have time for 9 rounds.
9.2. I don't know if I could talk about that 0.2 yet, but yeah, moving on.
That's too much math for me. So we're going to draft the 5 emotions of Inside Out, but Marvel characters playing them. So good luck figuring out the best way to piece that together. And just to clarify, the 5 emotions would be joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust. So we have to try and find a Marvel character to match each of those descriptions. Or if you struggle, maybe you just go with somebody that matches the color, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, way to give away.
Yeah, you just
list, apparently
spoiled one of them.
So this is interesting because we usually do a 4-round draft. This is a 5-round draft, so you do have a little bit of a benefit of drafting earlier. Tony, you get to choose the order here for yourself, at least. Do you want to draft first, second, or third?
I'll do first, just because again I have a limited selection to work with here.
Very fair. Kyle, I have the second pick then, and you would pick third.
Okay.
So
how'd you decide that?
We alternate, and
okay.
We try our best to keep track of who's supposed to be up.
I thought you were doing this is my show, this is my rules, that kind of thing.
He doesn't even work here anymore.
Oh, you had a great opportunity for a Mean Girls joke there.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
Okay, Tony. So you chose to pick first. This is interesting too because it's a category draft. I mean, characters could be fit however you want to place them, but
so I pick the emotion and then.
Yeah, you got to tell us which emotion the character is going to play.
Okay.
You don't have to pick any specific emotion first, but it's up to you now to decide which emotion you're going to.
That changes things. And I also left a note in here to myself, apparently, to buy the Inside Out 2 Funkos. So that's fun.
Well, while you're thinking, I will say it's a good thing that Doobie's not watching since you have 2 fans in the background.
If I tilt it right, it's a hidden Mickey.
It's like a Chargers game.
2 fans? Well played.
Nice. Okay. I'll stick easy and hope that one of them doesn't go away. But I'll go with anger.
Yeah.
And I know there's a very obvious one.
Oh.
I think that would be for anger. But I'll go with the second thought I had and say Wolverine.
Okay. Wolverine was second on my list for anger.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
But, this is an X-Men focused episode. So it makes sense that Wolverine is the first pick of the draft. I like it. Nope. Put that in the wrong spot. You do not want Wolverine as joy. You want him as anger. So, okay.
Maybe when he was with Jean from X2 knowledge. But...
All right. So I am up then, and it's bad gamesmanship to go with the same emotion here. But I'm going to take what I thought was the clear 101. I'm going to take the Hulk. The Hulk is my anger pick because I don't think he was going to get past Kyle and come back to me. So I'm going to take Hulk as anger. And then that was my first thought and sort of my only thought for this. And I had to really, from there, try and stretch this list out a little bit. So Kyle, you have back-to-back now.
Well, I don't have to worry about selecting. Well, I guess I kind of do have to select about an anger just in case there's some overlap. But I'm gonna zag. And we talked about how anger is pretty easy to fill. Some of the other ones not as much. So I'm gonna take one of the characters I think really fits one of those harder to cast categories. So for my sadness, fear. For fear, I'm taking Stephen Grant.
Nice. Okay. That's a really good pick. I didn't think about that. I did.
Query.
Who's Stephen Grant?
Who's Stephen Grant?
Stephen Grant is
he doesn't want to be Moon Knight. He is unintentionally Moon Knight, wrapped up in this nightmare of having being multiple personalities.
Yeah, and I did have him on my list, but I had him for Sadness, and I thought you might have taken him for that too because of one of your favorite quotes.
But I feel he's scared more than he's sad.
So. Okay.
Yeah, no, you're right. He is a great pick for Fear. That's a good one, and a good emotion to knock out because I do think Fear is one of the hardest ones to find. So, you got your second pick now too.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Joy, and I'm gonna take Kamala Khan.
Yeah, she was on my list and probably was going to be my pick.
Query.
Kamala Khan is Ms. Marvel, and she's played by Iman Vellani, who is a real-life Marvel fan and texts Kevin Feige and argues with him about which Earth the MCU is sit on.
Okay.
And everything she does is fantastic. And so she's joyful on and off screen.
Yeah, agreed. Great pick. She was the third one I came up with for Joy, but probably was going to be my first pick.
It's fun having Tony here. I get to show my work.
I like it. I like that I don't have to explain it too. Like I can just let you. We're kind of reverse.
You got all the X-Men explanation. I can explain my MCU picks.
Okay, so I'm back up now. I have the Hulk as Anger. I don't know where I want to go with this one now. All right, I'm gonna go with Kyle's strategy and try and knock one out that I think is a little bit tougher to do. Even if I don't necessarily know that you guys are going to have this character on your list for this specific spot, but I'm going to take Sadness, and it's going to be Spider-Man because Peter Parker and the famous Parker Luck goes through probably more trauma than any other character in Marvel Comics. So Spider-Man.
You did not specify emo Parker, which was my thought for Sadness.
With
Black. So yeah, I was going to say symbiote Peter Parker, but you didn't. So
no, just Peter Parker.
I tried to steer clear of the symbiotes given my track record with drafting and you guys.
Yes, that was what I think the scariest characters.
Every one of mine was a symbiote.
Hey, I love symbiote characters, so I appreciated it. All right, Tony, we're back to you. You chose to have the first pick and went with Wolverine as Anger. So back-to-back picks now. Where are you going?
So going with what Kyle said, I'm going to jump with Sadness again. But I didn't have Spider-Man. I had Wanda.
Yeah, good pick.
Because she had a bunch of stuff happen to her from my knowledge. And if my 101 knowledge knows that a lot of sad stuff happened to her, that's kind of the top notch there for me.
Yeah. She was on my list for Sadness, but also so many others.
She could have fit.
I know she got angry at one point. So
she got angry. Yeah. She angrily created a 1950s sitcom. So there you go. All right. So you've got
I thought
Wanda.
That was Agatha and Title 5 or whatever it's called now.
No, that can go off on a whole different discussion.
Okay, later.
You have another theme going now, though. Here, you've got Wanda and you've got Wolverine. What W character do you still have on your list for a different emotion?
Oh, none.
Okay, that's fair because I can't think of one off the top of my head. So
okay. Now, the next one I'm going to say again is fully based on this one, a trailer. Even though everybody tells me it would be one of my favorite Marvel movies. I said for Joy, the Grandmaster from Thor Ragnarok.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good pick. I thought you were going a different direction there with the trailer. And but yeah, Grandmaster is a good pick for Joy.
Luckily,
he always just seems happy with everything. So
Kyle just casually dropping Scientology.
Yep.
I don't know if it was Scientology.
I don't think it was Scientology though.
But the W is what I was going
for. Yeah, no, that's a good pick. And Tony, you absolutely need to watch Ragnarok for sure.
Yes.
All right, back to me now. This is tough. You've both gone with Joy, and I don't think the other one on my list would fit any other, so I don't think you're stealing them. Let's go with All right, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to go with a character that I've drafted more than any other character in any other draft, and it's because of the animated series specifically and her constant struggles with claustrophobia. Give me Storm for Fear.
I'm afraid of storms, so that works out.
I was in one earlier at Gatorland.
I saw, and yeah, I thought you were gonna turn into you're gonna turn into Jimmy Buffett, grabbing your margaritas and running away.
Well, I don't know if you boys are familiar with Gatorland, but apparently every roof there is tin and metal.
You mean it's Florida is the point?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it seems like a park that could very easily flood, which would then cause a problem. So anyway,
that happened. Not today, but it has with the Hurricane Ian a couple years ago.
Yeah.
They talked about it again today because the water levels went up and all the gators started getting ready to go out. Jumanji season.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Marvel.
Yeah, no. So Kyle, it would be very fitting for you to draft Fear, but you already did that. Now you have Stephen Grant and Kamala Khan as Joy. So who are you going with next? Back-to-back picks here.
Well, for Disgust, that's probably like the hardest one.
I'm a little worried you're going to steal my pick.
Yeah, probably Venom.
Oh no, okay, that's not my pick. No, that is a good one. I like it.
Yeah, because he's kind of like disgusting. So there you go.
So this must mean I'm disgusting. I like it. Yeah,
it's just me. I'm just obscene. I'm not the worst. Anyway, and then you guys already did your angers, but I'm going to take my anger just in case this character has any crossover. But I'm going to take J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah, he was the next one on my list for anger. So I like that. I had a list of 3 for each emotion, and all 3 of them went for my anger pick.
Well, see, I think that was Becca's suggestion. My first thought was Johnny Storm because of the flame connection.
Yeah, okay.
But I think J. Jonah.
Oh, okay.
All right. So now I have to get Joy and Disgust here, and I'm not worried about Tony taking either one of my picks. I have 2 on my list that are probably better, name recognition and make a lot of sense for Disgust. But the one I was worried about you stealing from me, Kyle, was Madison. With 2 N's and a Y, but it's not where you think. That is my Disgust pick.
She did suggest that as well, honestly.
Query.
Madison is a character on the sitcom She-Hulk.
Yeah.
Who
that was my thought, actually, so I'm glad I was right.
It's fun. It's a fun show. Another thing you might like.
I actually have seen.
I don't know. You're going to be horribly offended
She-Hulk
by seeing She-Hulk twerk. Is that going to like ruin your life and make you vent on Twitter?
It depends on how good the visual effects are, but we could talk about that later.
Well, there are multiple jokes I want to make there that we will save for off the air. Tony, you are back up now. To end out your draft here, you get back-to-back picks. You need Fear and Disgust, and I'll just run it through again real quick. You've got Grandmaster as Joy, Wanda Maximoff as Sadness, and Wolverine as Anger. Fear and Disgust, what do you got?
So for Fear, a lot of people are afraid of the dark. So I said Daredevil. I'm joking. No, that's fine.
Daredevil, famously the man without fear.
In a theme kind of piggybacking Wolverine, if we wanted to find a theme for all of them, I actually also said Rogue because I feel like she's just afraid of touching anything or letting people see how strong she is. And
no, that is a good pick and one that crossed my mind, and I didn't put her on my list mostly because I forgot to. So, Rogue is a good fear pick, and then we're kicking off the 5th and final round. Now you've got your Disgust pick to close it out.
So, based on reviews, I was going to say the Eternals, but
not even a character. The movie you were going to draft.
No, I'm joking, obviously, but I took a different approach because if you watch Inside Out, Disgust also has like a level of arrogance to her. Yes, she's looking out for Riley, but it's what disgusts her. So I kind of skewed more arrogant with my picks than actual disgust to be more in line with the character. And I kind of thought of Doctor Strange.
I like it.
Okay.
No, I think that's a good one. The arrogance is definitely there. You nailed that. And then I think those kind of go hand in hand to a degree, right? If you're going to be very arrogant,
some people like broccoli on pizza. But disgust doesn't, or anger for that matter.
Yeah.
And as such, Riley. But
San Francisco did ruin pizza.
It's not that bad out there.
Okay, so Doctor Strange is your last pick for Disgust. I am now up, and I need my Joy pick. And like I said, I was not worried about Tony stealing this because he very recently told us he has not seen the first movie this character appeared in, at least. My Joy pick is going to be Korg. I don't know that there is a character out there who is more genuinely happy at all times. So Korg is my pick for Joy. So Kyle, we are back to you. Your last pick, the last pick of the draft. You need to make your sadness pick, which is what I call most of your draft picks. But I
don't appreciate that. It's not really sad. It's more just like, I don't know. I'm going to take Michelle Jones.
Okay. Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah.
She's Zendaya.
Oh, MJ.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I even saw the first one. And she says it at the end. Okay. Sorry.
And you're like, what? Her name is MJ.
I don't think it was that. I think it was... Oh.
Okay, yeah, no, I do like MJ for sadness. I was kind of hoping you were going to take Happy Hogan just to have Happy as sadness. But
that was on my list.
I thought about having Happy as Joy, of course.
Yeah.
Happy, joy, happy, joy.
I didn't say him because I figured you guys would call me out because I don't think he's actually happy.
He could be.
But then again, Joy gets sad in the movie.
He could fit his anger. He would have fit for a lot of them, actually. Did anybody have any honorable mentions? I feel like this is a difficult one to...
I had some I'd like to say just for my own sense of validation with you guys to see if I was on the right track.
Yeah.
For fear, I also said Iron Man.
I actually did consider that more based on the comics than anything else, but I do see it. Yeah.
I was basing it on Endgame. Is that the one where everything he does is to make sure his daughter stays alive?
That's a good one.
Okay. That was my reasoning on that one. I also said Jean Grey for sadness.
Yeah.
And then Nick Fury for anger because it's Sam Jackson and he's always angry.
Perfect. Yes. Might have led to a conversation that we needed to mute for the podcast, but yeah.
Well, yes. I also said Deadpool for disgust.
I had Deadpool for disgust, for joy, for you could put them in a lot of different places. Yeah, so that was a good one too. Kyle, what about you? Any others that you were considering?
Jubilee for joy.
Yeah. Jubilation is literally her name, so
yeah. Peter Quill for sadness.
Yeah, that's
I had him for joy because he's always dancing.
Yeah.
And Ned for fear.
Oh, that's good. That's a good one. Ned is sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
He's the guy in the chair in the movie, the Spider-Man movie you saw.
The guy in the chair.
He's
Peter's
the friend.
Yeah, the friend.
Yeah.
Friend in this one, doesn't become the person that ends up killing him.
The two that I had for disgust above Madison that probably would have made more sense were Loki and Doctor Doom for similar reasons to why Tony picked Doctor Strange. So for Green too. I mean, it helped. So those are the other ones I considered. So let me run through our final lineups real quick too. Tony has Grandmaster as joy, Wanda Maximoff as sadness, Wolverine as anger, Rogue as fear, and Doctor Strange as disgust. Kyle has Kamala Khan as joy, MJ as sadness. Sorry, Michelle Jones, if you want it worded that way. J. Jonah Jameson as anger, Stephen Grant as fear, and Venom as disgust. I have Korg as joy, Spider-Man as sadness, Hulk as anger, Storm as fear, and Madison as disgust. So I like it. That was another ridiculous draft that I think we somehow brought reasoning to, probably more so than was necessary, but I liked it. Tony, thanks for joining us for the first time. Again, much longer than what I was aware of.
Yes, I'm glad you survived the alligators.
Thanks. Yeah,
that too.
It was a little scary. It was a great time. A little scary.
Aside from gator dodging, do you have what else is going on for you right now? What are you doing at Laughing
Well, Inside Out 2 comes out June 14th. So I'll hopefully see you guys again when we catch the next 4 on We, Envy, Anxiety, and Embarrassment.
What was the first one?
Start thinking now. On We. It means the boredom, as they say in the trailer. So
okay.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll
and the Big City Greens movie also. That's another big one.
Oh yeah.
So
I can see that. That's exciting. Cool. Well, thank you, Tony. Thanks for joining us, and we'll have you back real soon.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye. That's gonna do it. Oh, the Tony came back. That's gonna do it for another episode of the Zzzax of Life podcast. Kyle, what do we have going on? What's going on right now?
I saw Deadpool 2.
That's right. I can't believe we almost let an episode go by without mentioning that. Kyle finally watched Deadpool 2. What did you think?
It was okay. It was
Hold
fun.
on. I'm coming back for this. I've seen Deadpool 2. How did I see it before Kyle? I saw it in theaters.
Tony, have you seen the first Deadpool?
Yeah, I like Deadpool 2 more.
Yeah,
in
I
fact,
agree.
I also had Cable on my sadness list.
That's a good one.
Because again, he was looking out for his daughter, that whole thing. But
yeah,
right? Am I right? Is that right?
Yeah,
that
yeah,
right.
You're right.
Okay.
I mean, I did spot the cameo from former Springfield resident Brad Pitt in the movie.
That's the title for Brad Pitt, former Springfield resident.
So Kyle, you like music though. I want to talk about this. That acoustic cover of "Take on Me" though,
pretty good.
Okay,
yeah, loved it. I love the whole soundtrack, to be honest.
It wasn't in the trailer, so it's okay. Like using sad pop songs in trailers is a little overdone. This was like nice.
Good. Well, I'm glad you finally got around to watching it, Kyle. And do you agree? You like 2 better than 1, or?
I haven't watched 1 in a long time. There was things I liked about both. I mean, it's kind of funny that they retconned the whole movie at the end.
Well, they retconned a lot more than that.
Going
back to Green Lantern. So, Tony,
okay, bye, everybody.
Real quick, you having seen the first 2 Deadpool movies, are you going to see Deadpool and Wolverine?
I'll probably see it. I don't know how soon I will see it. It is kind of a busy summer, so hopefully I'll see it sooner than later before it gets ruined. But I would be interested in seeing it.
Cool. Good to know. It's rare that we get a Marvel movie on the calendar that Tony is interested in seeing. So
and I was told they don't count because the first 2 weren't MCU. So I still have a very low MCU count, but
those lines are being very blurred these days. So
especially with this new Deadpool, it looks like. So
yeah, absolutely, yeah. So that's exactly what's going on. Everything is seemingly at least MCU adjacent. So you count, give it like an asterisk, I guess.
Okay.
All right. Thanks again, Tony.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Bye.
So we obviously reached the end of X-Men 97. We no longer have a weekly show to discuss, so it might be a little bit before we have another Zzzax of Life.
July, right? For Deadpool and Wolverine?
Yeah. So we do there's Assembled next week. So with that, and maybe if we get like a huge outpouring of news before Deadpool and Wolverine, maybe we do another episode. If not, Deadpool and Wolverine is July 25th. And you can confirm that by checking out laughingplace.com and the MCU timeline page. So yeah, we have, is it 26th, 25th, 26th, whatever the Friday is, who knows? Really, it's a Thursday anyway. So yeah, we'll be back to discuss that movie and perhaps sooner if there's a whole lot of news, like I said. As always, head to laughingplace.com to check out all your Disney news and specifically Marvel news. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Zzzax of Life Pod so you can vote in for who you think won this draft. What else? What else do we got going on? Anything else? No, that's it.
Let's call it.
That's about as smooth as our outros usually go anyway. So thanks again for joining us, everyone, and we will be back soon-ish.
Bye.